Thank you for listening to the Golden Hour Drip podcast with me, Logan Lee Miller. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Golden Hour Drip podcast. I'm your host, Logan Lee Miller. I hope that you had a very happy, amazing 4th of July. I feel like the 4th of July is the perfect mid-summer holiday. One, it celebrates our, United States independence, which is amazing. Second, there's fireworks, there's hot dogs, there's potato salad, hanging out outside with your friends or your family, all the things. I love the 4th of July. I think that it is such a fun celebration and a chance for everyone to get outside, get together, get in the lake, get in a pool, anything and everything. I have seen so many really, really cute outfits that everyone has been wearing with the red, the white, the blue. There's one of my favorite boutiques, collab boutique in Kansas. And they have the cutest tops ever. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get all of them. And then, so 4th of July, right? I feel like my favorite 4th of July memories is always having sparklers and going out and running around and being able to make letters in the dark. I remember from a very young age being able to spell my name out. And I know there's photographers now who can take the photo and then the sparklers are all around, which is pretty cool. Or if it's an engagement I feel like the 4th of July is top tier for people to announce babies. It's 4th of July coming out with a bang, expecting baby, whatever, January or September or whatever. It is, it seems like July, the 4th of July, a lot of people have really, really fun baby announcements or engagements. I know a couple of my sorority sisters back in college, they got engaged on the 4th of July, and it's just a really fun celebration. And what is more American than lighting some fireworks up in the sky and hanging out with your friends and family? So I love the 4th of July. It is usually pretty hot in Missouri, and I always pray and hope for rain because we can usually go to the lake. One of my favorite memories is baling hay and just praying that it rains us out, which is not good. If you didn't know, I grew up on a farm, and every year around mid-June, early July, we were trying to get all of the hay baled so that we can, put up hay for our cattle. And I remember this 4th of July, our friends were at the lake and I wanted to go so bad. I was either we need to hurry up and get all of this done or it needs to rain. We ended up finishing before it was a bit rainy. And I will say this last week, it's rained here where I live. So it's not completely off par to have it rain during the 4th of July or kind of near it. So I just remember I was please, I am so tired of breaking hay. I just wanted to be in the water. And pretty soon, later that afternoon around 4:30, my dad, the sweetest words he can say is, okay, let's quit. And then we headed to the lake where we tubed and hung out for the weekend or for the evening. It's really nice. The lake that we like to go to is Truman Lake. It's an hour out from Lake of the Ozarks. So for me personally, Lake of the Ozarks is too packed, too crazy. And Truman Lake is more chill, family friendly. And it's only an hour in comparison to 2.5. So I love Truman Lake. I think it's so fun. And when our family and friends can be with us, even better, right? So the 4th of July, it holds a special spot for me. And I hope over the past weekend, you spent and celebrated your 4th of July in your favorite way. And of course, I hope that you stayed safe. My peak of the week would have to be, and I was thinking about this, the last couple of holidays that we've had, whether it be, New Year's, Christmas Eve, Easter. I have spent them at the yoga studio. So classes are optional on holidays for like teachers to teach. And it seems like every holiday, one of my very favorite teachers and good friends, Lindsay, ends up teaching a class. And I went Christmas Eve. It was super packed. It was super crazy. We were all like mat to mat. I'm pretty sure they had like a New Year's Day yoga class as well. And I went then. And it's so fun to see all the individuals who want to come and do their practice before like their holiday celebrations. I also want to say on February 13th, for like Valentine's Day themed one, I also went, and then the next day I literally flew out for Florida. Like there's I'm trying to like remember, but I'm pretty sure each holiday in the last like, I don't know, 6 to 8 months, I guess it would only be 7, whatever. I have spent, I want to say almost like around Thanksgiving I also went, but no, I don't know. Anyways, it's really special to have like someone take out time from their holiday to like go to the yoga studio and have a class. Personally, like I was off work on the 4th of July, so I'm like, oh, what are we gonna do? Like we can definitely clean the house, we can definitely like hang outside. But ultimately, like my morning isn't super, super busy. Like it was super easy for me to head to the yoga studio, take a really nice class. It was a power 2, so it was pretty intermediate, and it was hot. It was sweaty. I wore my red leggings and a white tank top. It was so cute, so fun. And everybody had like either glitter in their hair or like the tinsel hair. They wore red, white, and blue, and it was just really it's like it's a top memory. Like when I'm at the yoga studio hanging out with others who want to get like a little bit of movement in before, their holiday, it makes it like a million times sweeter. And the fact that all classes are optional, meaning like the teacher can cancel their class on the 4th of July, it means the most. Like, oh, she went to teach a class, she went to hang out, and it's always such a highlight. But afterwards I came home. My legs are feeling so sore. Still, like this past weekend I took a sculpt class, and if you've ever taken like any sort of like HIIT class or like a high intensity, like definitely like your heart rate is pumping, you are breathing hard, you're jumping around. Like if you've taken a class like that, it is not for the weak. It is so difficult to like just get that energy going. And I like taking an evening class, but for a HIIT class, for a sculpt class, I've got to do it in the morning. That is when I have the most energy. I tried taking a sculpt class like, I don't know, a week ago, and it was an afternoon one. It was like a 5:45 class. I was like, all right, we got this. I hadn't like moved from my desk all day. It was a crazy, busy, hectic work day. And I was like, all right, like I want to get just a little bit of movement, stretch my spine. Oh my gosh. I feel like I had been sitting in that chair, just like Hunchback of Notre Dame. And I was like, all right, like we need to go, we need to work out. And I even had like a second coffee. I was like, all right, like a second coffee, like hopefully that gets me going. It did, but also it was like so rambunctious and hard. And it's always like the teachers are great, right? I don't teach sculpt. I teach like a power yoga class. And so like the intensity is different. And I personally like a power class over a sculpt class because cardio is just hard for me. And during class, like you always want to encourage all of your students, right? Like, okay, like you got this. And it's so hard when they're like come on, Logan, you got this. I'm like, I literally want to cry on my mat right now. Like my legs are shaking. My core is like so wobbly and have sweat dripping down my face. And it's like the most embarrassing, like vulnerable spot. And they're like, come on, Logan. And I'm like, oh, like I'm trying, I'm coming, I'm doing it. But, it was really, really special to have it like on the actual 4th of July in the morning, take some time to myself. And I also feel like the harder the class is, the better my mind shuts off. Like I'm not thinking about what to do in the next hour. I'm not thinking about like catching up on work or podcasting or anything like that. I am so totally focused on what movement this teacher is telling me. Like, are we in tabletop? Are we in down dog? Are we, in skandasana? Like all of the things. And I love the mentality of, okay, when I'm there, I'm so fully present. I'm on my mat. There's nothing else that matters. My Apple Watch is going, but I have notifications turned off. So I'm not getting phone calls. I'm not getting texts. I'm not getting any sort of notification from my cell phone. And it's just like me, I'm being present. I'm working really hard and the sweat is just pouring off of me. But I like taking that time to myself. Speaking of notifications, I am on the fence on like getting the app Opal. So here's the only thing, like I've heard such great things. If you don't know what Opal is, it's an app that you can download to help reduce your screen time. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a fun thing to do. I have screen times like listed on my cell phone, but like you can bypass them. All you have to do is like put in a password and you're able to like bypass it and you can continue like scrolling or on social media, whatever. So I was thinking, okay, like if I do Opal for a month or something to like reduce my screen time, to focus my energy on other projects that I'm really wanting to work on, if I'm able to do that, then I'll build like a really nice habit and then I won't have to have the app. Well, the only thing is you have to purchase it for a year, or at least that's what I was finding. So I was like trying to look through the app, see if I could do it monthly. And it's like, no, it's like a yearly fee of $100 and some. And I'm like, what if I hate this? What if I don't like it? And you do get like a trial period, but at the end of the trial, like they're going to charge you. And I've just been like overthinking it. And it's probably like the part of my mind that's like, oh, we want to scroll and we want to veg out sometimes. And I'm like, all right, like, would it be worth it? Would it not be worth it? Do I just need to like have better clarity? Like, do I need to dial down on my schedule? Or like, how can I just like reduce the time on my screen without like going to the links of the app Opal? But I don't know. I'm back and forth. I'm like, I want to spend time like doing things that are enriching and make me happy. And then I also think that it would open up my time pockets for me. Like, oh, instead of scrolling for 45 minutes, I instead like swap the laundry and, quickly wipe down the bathroom. So when it comes to the weekend, I'm not like having to clean the house, right? Like it's already done. It's already been taken care of. So I go back and forth, but I'm like, man, like I really think that my screen time is still like a little too high and I need to like try and reduce it somehow. I don't have that app Facebook on my phone. I don't have Snapchat. I don't have Be Real. Like there is a couple things that like I don't have on my phone, but still like TikTok is a time suck. Instagram is a time suck. Pinterest is a time suck. Spotify, audiobooks, like YouTube, all of those things like do take my attention away. And I have to remind myself like, oh, like we need to work like right now. We need to like focus our energy on editing this podcast or, cleaning the kitchen or going outside, going for a walk. And so I am not sure what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to figure out like one way or another to like focus my time doing something to like keep myself in my screen time low. Almost like obviously I'm always going to have some screen time, but to like keep it low in an aspect where it's like not inhibiting me from like working on other goals and aspirations. Because last week it was the very first day of July, which is really exciting, right? And so there are a lot of goals that I've put in place for myself that I want to achieve in the next 6 months. And I'm like, all right, like we're going to focus on this. We're going to do it. And one of them is to read a book every like 1 to 2-ish weeks, depending on the size of the book. But I want to a lot, like sometime in the morning and sometime in the afternoon, to read a book. Currently, I started on the Woman Code. This is a book that is by Alyssa Vitti, I believe. I picked up this book a couple of years ago and I've read through it once, and I decided it was time to like revisit a couple of things, especially in regards to like hormone rebalancing and focusing on nutrition and brain function. I feel like for the past like 2 months, my brain has been kind of like foggy. I don't know, like it's been like really, really hard to focus on things in a way that like I am overthinking to an aspect, but also like don't have the energy to do it. And I'm worried that I am having like low blood sugar, and then like it's the dip and it's the rise. And I've already tried really hard to like incorporate protein before drinking my coffee, because I love my coffee so very much. But I'm like, okay, like what is causing this like dip in energy? And I don't know if it has anything to do with like my period and like having lower estrogen during certain times as part of like your cycle, or what it is. So I'm like, okay, like we need to dial this down a little bit. And it goes in line with my health goals and my reading a book every 2 or so weeks. So I'm like, all right, like we need to reduce the notifications on our phone. We need to reduce scrolling and enrich my mind in like a different way. So I've been reading this book, and I also think audiobooks to an extent it's also absorbing knowledge. So I have Spotify Premium, and this book is on Spotify, and so I'm able to like read the book while I'm in bed, and then like if I'm driving somewhere I can also listen to it. So I'm getting the knowledge one way or another, but to be able to learn something new every week or two. I don't want to say read a book every week, because I think that's like a little much. Like I want to be absorbing the content. I don't want it to be this super, you have to do it, you have to speed through a book just to reach the goal. Instead, like this is enjoyment aside from like scrolling on my phone, and I want to get the knowledge, get the situation of, the characters or whatever, but it's not like this hard and fast. It has to be done every single week, a whole book read, because books vary and the things. And also like the whole point is to like be off my phone less, not necessarily like speed read through books. So that's the book that I've been reading for fun and also like education. I'm not sure if I'm going to like switch off every other week. Okay, like this is a novel, this is like an educational book or what. I have been still enjoying the magazines. I did get a subscription to Magnolia and not Southern Charm. What the heck? Southern. There's one that's called Southern. I can't even remember the name right now, but it has been really fun to get mail in your mailbox, right? And not being a bill. Not that like we get bills in the mail as much anymore. Most of it is like auto pay, but we get a lot of junk mail, right? Like credit card applications, like, oh, you've been approved, right? Straight garbage. Anyways, it was so fun. Like I got my magazines in the mail and I like pulled it open and I was like, oh, this is so fun. And like enriching my afternoon, or throwing it in my bag to be able to like pull out in the car has been awesome, like really nice. So magazines, books, like anything that's just more like flat instead of videos or whatever, because I do love that to an extent, but it became where you log on to one of your streaming platforms, right? Like, and you're like, oh, watch that video already, watch this show, watch that movie, there's nothing new on, and I was thinking back to my childhood. I'm like, man, like we only watched TV on Fridays or the weekend. Fridays we'd have like a movie night. It was very rare that we watched movies or watched shows every single night. And I was just thinking, gosh, like what did I do in my evenings? Well, I went outside, I played with my siblings, I did chores, I like was out just playing and observing and reading books. And so I'm like, it's summer. I should be spending the time outside or spending it in the yard, doing whatever. Like I literally could be laying there looking up at the trees. I was on my hammock. You guys know I love my hammock. And I was like looking up at the trees, and I was thinking back to this. It was a TikTok, and it was like, oh, you should take your babies outside for their, laying on their back or for enrichment, because it changes it from the white ceiling to like the clouds and the trees. I'm like, man, I need to treat myself like a child. I need to be getting outside, getting fresh air, getting sunshine, getting sunshine, looking at the trees, looking at the clouds, the birds, the bees, all the things. And I'm like, okay, like we just need to pretend that we're a child and set limits on some things, because being an adult is fun, right? You can do whatever you want. You can go to the store, you can buy a cake, you can eat the entire cake for supper, you can spend all day in bed. Like you can do so many fun things that when you were a kid, you're like, oh, I want to do that so bad. But it's also like really fun to have goals and aspirations and work towards something that is going to fulfill you and make you happy. So I'm like, all right, like we actually need to get going. And there's times where I'm like, my energy just like literally won't allow it. And I don't know if it's because I'm stuck in the routine of like, oh, like I've been sitting inside all day, so my energy is not up, or I'm not having fun or my brain is mush from work. So it's like taking those little times to like go outside and hang out and not necessarily like be inside all the time, or watching videos or waiting for the next episode or the next season, which I know this is kind of off topic because I've been saying, oh, like spending less time on the screens or whatever. The Bear just came out with a new season, which I do. Listen, I'm not saying I never want to watch movies or shows or anything like that. I'm just saying that I want to spend some of my other time doing things that are also still fun. I still think watching shows and like talking with other people is fun. And so I was watching The Bear. We are now on episode 2 of this newest season, and it's the second episode, but there's a clock on the wall and it shows the time, and it's in like essentially it's like a realistic clock. And by what I mean by that is it shows like the time. This is not making any sense. If you watch The Bear, they're in the kitchen and there's like a clock on the wall, and the clock like it shows like when people are coming into the restaurant, it's like, okay, it's 6:45, and then as like the characters are talking and they're rolling through their lines, it'll say 6:17, like as if real time passes. But the only thing that I can think about is, oh, like how many takes did they do? Like how many takes did they do that they had to reset the clock? Or is the clock like generated from the computer where it actually like doesn't have any numbers on it at all, but then they like manually edit it to have numbers in it? And if it is a real clock where they're like, okay, like start the scene back up at like 6:50, and then they're like turning the clock and like resetting the clock. Like that's all I can think about. It's kind of the same scenario of Finding Nemo. Like there's a game where every time the fish are underwater, you're supposed to like hold your breath or whatever. And it's like a game like that. Like I think, oh gosh, like did 2 minutes actually go by. Like, I want to time it and be like, oh, the clock now says this time, but like, is that realistic? Was it actually 2 minutes? Or is it just like, it's been kind of about 2 minutes, right? And maybe that's just weird to think about, but I always notice the clock and I'm like, the clock is ticking, like. Or I think if you've ever watched The Bear, they are like crazy. They will fight and they will yell at each other. And the energy is just so rambunctious and crazy. But as I'm like watching them, I'm like, oh, everyone got there 2 minutes ago and it's been straight yelling at each other. Like, it is so hostile and reactive. And I'm just like, I don't know, like, are restaurants really like that? Like, really high energy restaurants like that? I did read the book Unreasonable Hospitality, and I've mentioned it before, but like, it is such a high level of quality and perfection that I understand like tensions could run high, but wouldn't it be better if people were chill? Like, I feel like I do better in an environment where I feel safe, right? Like, I can bloom, if you will, when all of everything is just like optimal, right? Like, I'm sitting in my favorite chair, I have my mic, I have my little spindrift or whatever. The lighting is good, I've prepared, nobody is yelling at me. In comparison to like, if you're a first time driver, right? And you're sitting in the driver's seat and your parents on the, passenger, and you accidentally, pull out in front of someone. They're like, oh my gosh. And, nobody got hurt. And you were kind of like, it was a questionable, driving situation, but like, you're safe and you're fine. They're like, oh my gosh, like, and just like crazy. Or, oh, you need to turn, or it's a stoplight. And they're like, oh, slow down, it's a stop, like, slow down. And they're like grabbing on the door or whatever. I'm like, chill, like, it's chill. Okay. I do way better when people are not as reactive, not as crazy, and just like very nicely say, hey, like, slow down. Or do you see that? Like, I don't even know. Like, just like trust. Okay. Like, trust it's going to be okay. Trust we're going to get through this. Like, stop being psychotic. I don't know. Like, The Bear, on one hand, it's really fun to watch because it's a different dynamic. But on the other hand, I'm like, oh my gosh, my anxiety is like kind of like starting to come out. And I feel like I'm being yelled at. Okay, maybe not anxiety, maybe cortisol levels are starting to rise. Everyone is yelling at each other. And I'm like, oh my gosh, even like Sugar. Okay, so that's the sister's name. She has a real name, but that's her nickname. So they borrowed money from the uncle, and the uncle is like on her about the books, right? And then she's like, how are we spending this much money? Why is this going out? Why is that going out? And she's like, I promise you we are being profitable, but like, it's hard. It takes some time. And she's like running through the numbers, but both of them are yelling at each other. And in the movie, like, she's pregnant. Okay. And I'm just thinking, like, the number one thing is like to be chill during this time and not to be like so high stress and crazy. And on top of that, like, hormones, I can't imagine it. Like, that, but I don't know. Like, he's yelling at her and she's yelling back and they all yell at each other. It's dysfunctional for sure. But it is fun to watch. And so we have been watching that. But again, that's something special. That's something that's like, oh, like, let's watch it tonight or like on Friday or whatever. I do binge some things often, right? Like, it's a work in progress. It's not perfect all the time, but I'm like, okay, like, this is special. We know what to watch, or it's on. But when it ends, it's like, oh, what are we waiting for next, right? Or do we rewatch something? So I'm just trying to not have my screen time so high. And that's not just my phone. Like, screen time can be your iPad or your computer or like the television. I saw this post that was like, okay, I wake up and stare at my little screen before getting to work on my medium screen. And if I have a really good work day, I'm going to reward myself with some time on the big screen. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how actually, like, I am staring at a little screen all day long. right? Like that's just, I don't know. And not to give you like Sunday scaries or Monday scaries, honestly, but it's like, oh my gosh, like how much time can we actually be saving doing things? Like if you multiply the hours up yearly, like how many days did you waste like consuming? I don't know. It's good, it's bad. It is like helpful for knowledge and it definitely gives some benefit, but I just keep thinking like, I need to chill out. I need to go outside. I need to touch some grass. I need to, pick my flowers, look at the birds, look at the bees, look at all the things that are not on a screen, right? Hey, I hope that you're enjoying today's podcast episode. Just a quick interruption to let you know that the Golden Hour Drip podcast has a monthly newsletter. You'll find podcast updates, upcoming events and information, and bonus content. If you haven't already, click the link in the show notes and join today. Now, back to the show. Okay, so my pit of the week was actually in regards to my apple tree. I love this apple tree, right? Like I love it with all my heart. Is it planted yet? No, it is not actually in the ground, but I do think I'm going to be able to plant it this week. And I know what you're thinking, July, that's kind of crazy to be planting a tree. It will die. No. I plan on taking really good care of it. Okay. Like I'm going to have a little jug, a big jug actually, and I'm going to be able to water it every day. I think I have official decided where I want to plant it. That is going to be out of the way, not going to be able to like be run over, munched on by any cows, and essentially like it's going to be there for years to come, right? Okay. So the bad thing is I went out to go check on my little tree, give her some water, and for some reason the leaves were looking quite bad. And where a lot of the new leaves started to grow, gone. Aphids or beetles or whatever had climbed on my plant and started eating all the new baby leaves. And I was literally so mad because it had like no growth when it was being mailed to me. The leaves were like older leaves, and I had started to get like these new beautiful leaves, and I quickly I shook the entire plant. I was so mad, and I had to get Sevens dust, and I'm really sad. And I spritzed it on all of my apple tree because I'm not letting some beetle eat my apple tree. Like it seriously, one, gross. Okay. Bugs, disgusting. Two, I'm yes, I would love an organic apple tree. Like I am not sure how I'm going to do this. Maybe when it's bigger, I'll stop putting Sevens dust on it. But the amount of leaves that were eaten from these beetles makes me sick, absolutely sick. Okay. And it made me just want to literally stomp on every single one of those aphids or beetles or wherever the heck they were and just smush them to the ground. I was so mad, so angry, so upset. But besides that, she will be getting put in the ground. I'll water her daily. She'll be fine. Okay. And if not, I guess I'll have to buy another one. But I don't know. My garden has done absolutely crap this year. I accidentally all of my tomato plants died. I have a couple cucumbers that are coming up. I'm really excited about that. A couple of them have just started to flower. So I'm okay, we're getting some cucumbers. I thought they were goners. These are seeds that I saved from last year. And then my rhubarb that I planted. Rhubarb takes 3 years before you can harvest it. So I'm waiting on the rhubarb. In 3 years, I'll be making rhubarb jam. Little sourdough update. Speaking of jam, my sourdough is going great. Is she a super, super strong starter yet? No, she is not. But I've made a couple discard loaves and discard banana bread. Those have been going really, really well. So I'm still proud of myself. Okay. I think it's because our air conditioning, whatever, the AC is like on in the house, and I think it's like making the starter a little cold. And I keep like trying to put a cup of boiling water like next to it and then cover it with a little towel so that can be warmed up. But the experiment is going well. I do feel like a scientist. Okay. I'm like measuring out the flour, and I usually feed my sourdough in the morning. So I measure out my coffee grounds, and I'm, brewing my coffee, and then with the same weight or the same scale, I'm like, okay. And like measuring out some flour and measuring out some water with our coffee. Oh my gosh. Okay. Strawberry jam and not whipped cream. It's actually, heavy whipping cream. So I do heavy whipping cream, a splash of milk. I whisk that up with my milk frother, and then I put a spoonful of jam in it. Strawberry jam is my favorite, and then make like a chocolate coffee. Ooh, that is so, so good. Our coffee beans, we have just finally used up all of our birthday coffee that we got. So we're back to not the roastery. The roastery is our favorite. And we picked up 40 sardines, which is our number one top favorite. And then the KC blend. And, Kansas City Chiefs fans over here. And also it's like one of the very, very good beans. But it brings me like so much joy when I'm making my cup of coffee, especially like next to my sourdough. I will say, speaking of the Chiefs, speaking of football, I have had the most bizarre dreams in the past like week. Okay. I don't know what it is, but the dreams have been so vivid, and literally every single one of my enemies has been in my dreams. Not all of them, but I'm like, ew, like, why are you here? Like, I was so mad. So maybe that's just like a lot of inner work that I need to deal with. But one of my dreams, this is so crazy. Okay, so this was last week. One of my dreams was I had roller skates on. I was trying to get ready, and I had like so many different items to my costume. I was like, okay, like I have to get my pants on and my shirt on. And then I had like these arm tassel things and rollerblades, and I was trying out for the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, but I was on roller skates, and so that was super, super difficult. But in my dream, I like kept not being ready, and the coaches were like, Logan, you have to get this together, like we're not gonna let you try out. And I was like, no, like I promise you, like I'm ready to try out. And I'm like still trying to find pieces of my costume, even though like the Dallas Cowboy costume or outfit uniform, it's like 2 pieces, right? No, this costume, I don't know, like it had fringe arms, it had roller skates, like it had all of these things. And I'm like, okay, we're almost there. And I'm like running around trying to find all my pieces, and all the other girls have like done great, and they're already like being able to like move on to the next step, and I have to perform. And at the very end, they're like, this is your last like minute, like if you don't get out there, like you can't perform. I was like, I'm ready. And and part of the dream, they're like, okay, can you do your jump split? I was like, yes, but I'm in rollerblades. So I like put out one rollerblade, put back the other one, like jumped up on the rollerblades, and then like, slowly had, the rollerblades like spread out. Anyways, they're like, okay, you're ready. And I just remember hugging, and I can't remember the blonde one's name at this moment. But the blonde coach, I just remember hugging her and being like, thank you so much. And then I woke up. But that's like a wild dream, right? Like that's crazy. I just feel like my dreams have been like so vivid last week in the things that I've been thinking of, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like these are absolute crazy. And I wish I could think of some other ones that was like a pretty big dream. But there's other fun ones, but yeah, there's other bad one. Oh, okay. So I now remember one of the other ones. I was at Disney World with Rachel and Andrew, and Garrett was there too, and we were at the resort, and we're walking around. Somehow I get left in like some community members from my high school were like, oh, like, you need help getting home. And then I was on my school bus, like trying to get home and trying to be on like the different stops. And I was like, oh, this is finally my stop. Like, thank you so much. But we're in Florida, but also at my home. And like, I don't know, maybe that has to do like being left somewhere, but the dreams have been absolutely bizarre. Best one was, you know, trying out for the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. I don't know. And that's on, you know, your subconscious mind trying to work on things. And what better time to work on those things than when you're asleep? This is why one of my goals is meditation, because you spend so much time like during the day not giving yourself time to like actually think. You're just like consuming work, like, oh, what do I have to do? What's next? What's this? What am I having for lunch? Like, do I need to meet with my parents? Like all the things, right? And meditation allows like your brain to be like quiet for a moment, kind of like dreaming. When you're dreaming, your brain is not like focusing on a task or focusing on, you know, the past or what you should be doing to prepare for the future. It's just like present, and it's creating like these little visions or movies in your mind. And I'm like, okay, like this is nice, like I'm enjoying it. But yeah, if you give space for like more meditation through the day, it allows your subconscious mind to come to the conscious mind and think about things. So maybe I should do that to like work on some of these crazy dreams that I've been having. But I don't know, it must be something in the air. It must be with, you know, all the things. I honestly, like, I don't know. But I will say, like, there has been, like, looking back on my habits, there's been so many things where like I used to do like pretty routinely that for some reason or another, like I decided like, hey, like I can't do that anymore. Meditation being like one of them, or maybe it's like waking up at a certain time or reading books or like hanging out with certain friends. And I think back to that, there's so many moments where we do something for a season, right? Like we spend our whole summer like waking up, going to our internship, grabbing you know, an iced coffee, and then all of a sudden like you look around and the season has changed. It's now fall, and you know, your internship has ended and now you're starting your new job, or maybe at college or whatever life stage you're at. It doesn't matter. Like some things we do like really routinely and it becomes ingrained, and we almost think like, hey, this is going to be forever. This is what's going to happen forever. And then like all of a sudden it's a new season and there's new characters in your life and new things to do. And I have just been thinking about like seasons in my life where I've really had fun, right? Like I look back and I'm like, oh, like that was such a fun time. I really enjoyed that. You know, why don't I do that anymore? Right? Like, why am I not going for a walk around town? Oh, it's because I no longer work in town, so it's like not as convenient. Or maybe it's like, oh, you know, I was sewing every single day and now I don't sew at all, or printing out photos and scrapbooking. There's so many hobbies or things that we like focus our time doing, and then it like we don't realize that one day it's going to be the last time we do that thing for a while. And on one hand, you can be sad about it. You're like, man, like I wish I could go back and do that. I wish I had more time to like continue with that. Or you could look at it and think, oh gosh, like even though I am in a new season, or I'm setting down this hobby, or I'm setting down this routine, it doesn't mean it's the end. It doesn't mean that I can't pick it back up in a different season of my life. So if you have a hobby that at one time it was like really serving you and you're like, this is perfect, this is amazing, maybe you're able to go to a spin class every single Wednesday and that's what you look forward to, and it's like, this is it. And then something changes. You pick up a volunteer work on Wednesday, and so now you're no longer able to do it. It doesn't mean that you can't ever experience that again. It just means for this season, you have to set down that hobby. You have to set down that routine. And some people refer to that as like falling off the wagon. Like, oh yeah, like I was doing so well and then I just like fell off the wagon and I can't get back to it. I don't necessarily think that we should be like referring to it as like falling off the wagon, but instead like I set that down for a while And it's okay. Like, you're able to set down things when they get too heavy or too hectic or it no longer serves you, and then be able to like pick it up at a different time. You are in control of your life. And so if it's taking too much time, taking too much energy, and you're like, oh gosh, like this is actually like not where I want to spend my time or not what I want to be doing, that may change too. And I know when you're in your, even actually any age, if you're 18, if you're in your 20s, if you're in your 30s or 40s, like there is always going to be an obstacle. There's always going to be like new things that you didn't have in the previous chapter. So, in high school, you have school every day, and in college, you have school every day. And then when you get to your first job, maybe that's, you're 21, 22, 23, for like real official job, not like ice cream shop or anything like that, but like maybe applying your major in one way or another. And now like you don't have school every day. You're not interacting with your friends all the time. And so you're putting down that thing of learning every single day. And now it's like learning in a new aspect, but like you're not hanging out with your friends. You're not like going to the library to study. It's a new season. And that's not saying that you can't ever get back to that, but it's okay to like set that down, or being able to like go out with your friends on Thursday because you don't have class Friday until like 2:00. And now like you're in a season where you're working. Or if you're in your 20s and you're going out and you're hanging with friends, and you're maybe just started your job and you're getting the hang of it. And then something like a big move comes up, and now you're being transported to a different state or a different community, and you're no longer able to see those college friends or very first work friends, or maybe it's a dog or a baby, or a job switch, or maybe your parents move in with you because they're getting older. Like there's so many things that can come up and can inhibit us from like doing something that we've always done or something that we've always enjoyed. And I think it's okay to like just set it down for a while. Like if your time commitments change, like that's okay, and your focuses are going to change. So I always think about for myself, like, oh gosh, like there's going to be a day when I can't just like plan a weekend trip and like go. Like I am going to have like more planning, right? Because with my job right now, I have extreme flexibility. So I'm able to, if I want to go to a show on Thursday in Chicago, like I can do that. I can take off. I can take my work with me. Sorry. But there's going to be a moment in time where I'm not going to be able to do that anymore. Or like booking in advance. Like I just booked a February trip. Oh, I'm so excited. I just booked a February trip and I didn't even have to think about it. Like I booked it. I'm like, I know I'm going to be free that weekend because I don't have any obligations. Most of my friends have already got married. I'm not going to have to worry about a wedding or anything like that. I'm like, I can book it. I'll be there. Like there's no doubt about it. And I know there's going to be a point in my life where I can't do that for a season. And like, just because you can't do it right now doesn't mean it has to be like this forever. Like you're always able to come back to a hobby, come back to a routine or a way of life. And as someone who hates change, right? Like I try to embrace change as much as I can, but I like having routines. I like having rules. I like having systems in place that make me happy and make me like sane. But I know things change, and the only thing in life that is consistent is change. So I can try and keep all my rules. I can try and stay like super stiff and not flexible, or I can welcome like the new seasons and the new life. Like I just saw on social media, it's like back to school stuff. And in my head, I'm like, oh, back to school means like summer's ending. And while this summer has been like so much fun, like the float trip that we just had and like visiting my parents, to me, it almost seems like we're not actually like in the swing of summer yet, even though it just was the 4th of July. But I think, oh gosh, like I haven't got to experience summer yet. But ultimately we have July, and then August school usually starts. But as an adult, like to me, summer doesn't have to end until, let's see, okay, July, August, September, like early September is maybe the end of summer. So I can still experience and enjoy the things that are outside, and I can still like be in the sunshine, it's not over yet, right? But I can embrace and accept that some of the things that I can do during the summertime, I'm not going to be able to do in the fall, right? Like I'm not going to be able to be in my bathing suit sitting outside on my patio furniture, right? Like that might not be something I can do. But instead, I could be cuddled up with one of my favorite quilts. I could be roasting s'mores on my patio, on my furniture, and reading a book. Okay, like that's still fun. It's still exciting. It's just like shifting priorities and shifting within the seasons. But like change is always going to happen, and it's on how you're going to embrace it. Like if you, or you don't have to embrace it. It's all on how you look at it from your point of view and your perspective. And it really hit me this week that there's some things that I don't want to change in my life, right? Like I love so much and I like hold on to it so dearly, of having that routine or having the expectation of it, right? Like I think about the past float trip, right? My mom's thinking about switching to a different river maybe in the next couple of years, like 6 or 5 or whenever, right? And I think, oh gosh, like we floated this forever. Like when it changes, that's going to be so hard. Or I think about the house that we live in right now. Like I know that this house is a perfect starter home, right? Like Garrett and I love it so much. We love being together. We love our dogs. But there is going to be a moment where this home might be too small, or it might not be what we want anymore. And so I'm going to have to leave my backyard. I'm going to have to leave like this home, this layout, this, what makes me so happy, right? Like, and when we moved here, like I loved it. But there's going to be a time where this chapter is going to close, and I'm not going to be able to like stay here forever essentially. And then like thinking about the future and thinking, oh gosh, like there's going to be a time where I'm welcoming something else. I'm welcoming a bigger home or a smaller home or a different home or somewhere not in this exact location, right? And I think it's a bittersweet. It's not great to like work yourself up over the future, like, oh, this is going to happen, this is going to change, this is going to be horrible. But instead to like use it as a way to embrace the present. Like, oh, like this isn't going to be like this forever. And it's so funny because I used to say that to myself when I was stressed out, right? Like when I was having panic attacks and just like freaking out, not loving life. Okay. I used to tell myself like, this is not going to last forever. This will pass. Like you will be happy. And now I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. But there's another wave of happiness that could be in the future, just around the corner. And I think, oh gosh, like when that comes, like it's going to be amazing. It's going to be great. Or maybe it will be a little painful. Maybe it will be a little scary, but to welcome that too and know that that's not going to last forever. That's not going to, be how I feel. But instead, like, oh gosh, like this is not going to last forever. So embrace it. So enjoy it. So, soak it up with all that you can. And, change and changing seasons and looking to the future can be scary. And if I've worked you up, I'm so sorry. I have just been like really thinking about this past week and how like, my siblings are getting older. Like my little sister Lily is going to be 19. She's going to be 19 this summer, which is exciting. Brody's getting his driver's license in January, so he has to get his permits this literally like this week. And to think, oh my gosh, like they're starting their adult lives, and thinking about like family members getting married, right? Like to think, oh, like that'll be welcoming a fun new chapter for their life, and a new chapter for like our family is expanding in that way. So I'm feeling extra like unsettled. Maybe that's why my dreams are so crazy too, but like just feeling a little like I think something big might be around the corner, and thinking, oh, like looking to the future and looking towards like the things that are going to be happening, and still like embracing where we're at, right? Like still embracing the happiness, still embracing the things where I'm fully rooted, right? In this routine and this chapter of my life, but like it could change at any moment, whether it's a job or, moving or anything, right? And there might be something in your life right now that you're like, oh, like things are already changing. Like I am missing the past, like missing how it once was. Thinking about like my childhood home, like my parents are thinking about moving, and so I'm thinking about my childhood home and being able to like go there at any time and experience that nostalgia of, oh gosh, like this is how it used to be, this is so fun. And there might be a moment where like I won't be able to go back there, right? And they might be living somewhere else and having a different home. So it's like it's bittersweet, right? And life could be bittersweet like that. So I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, and I know you don't either. So there's no point in like worrying about it or thinking, oh my gosh, like how am I going to prepare for it? Because ultimately, like there's been crazy things that have happened to us in the past, and we were able to like work through those and center ourselves, prepare, find the happiness, find what fills us up and makes us feel good. So we'll do that in the future too. There's nothing to worry about. Enjoy the summer, enjoy the heat. And maybe it's just because like my feed has been filled with like a bunch of or what is it? It's like summer Halloween, but what is it called? I can't even remember, but essentially like Christmas in July, it's like Halloween and Summerween. That's what it's called, Summerween. So I've seen like a bunch of Summerween posts, and I was cleaning out our whole closet, and it had like some of our Bath and Body Works scent that are like all fall scented. I'm like, man, it's gonna be so fun for fall. But then I think, oh gosh, like I love my new pillows. They're like very spring vibe, so I'm gonna have to like swap those out for the fall. And I don't know, like it's all dumb, okay? Like nothing matters. Nothing really matters. Don't get worked up or anything. But truly, like we just need to live our life, find the joy, find the happiness, and find the happiness in the chapter that we're in. And fall is going to come no matter what. Winter is going to come no matter what. Spring will always come, right? The seasons will always be here, and we just get to experience them. We get to have fun and just switch out the seasonal pillows when it might be. So I'm looking forward to that for sure. Like the candles, the scents, flipping everything over. I feel like Christmas was just here, but we still have 6 months. Like that's where like I get so crazy about it, because I'm like, we still have a full 6 months before December. We still have a full 6 months before 2025. Like so much can happen in 6 months that it is crazy. Like a new season could happen. Like you could find the love of your life. You could move to a new city. You could get a new job. You could get a new dog. I don't know. Like there is so much excitement for the future, but it's also like good to stay grounded in the present and what you're doing and what you're enjoying, right? So I'm going to be focusing on enjoying the garden that I have, enjoying the backyard that I have, and the hummingbirds that I have, right? Like, because that's what makes me the most sad. Like I have planted my zinnias in front of my window for the last 3 years. Okay. And what happens when I move and maybe nobody moves in here? Maybe Brody, my little brother, moves here. Maybe I don't know what's going to happen ever. Right. But what about my hummingbirds? They've come here for the last 3 years, right? And hopefully we'll be here for another 3 years or something. But I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like what if nobody plants zinnias and my hummingbirds starve? Okay, that'll be sad. No, I think I'll still come back and like plant some zinnias. Like it doesn't matter who's living here. I'll come out and be like, oh, sorry, zinnias for my hummingbirds. No, I know that's crazy. But I think about that. So I'm going to appreciate the hummingbirds, right? The hummingbirds that I've built a connection and a relationship with, right? They come back every single year. The birds in the trees, the squirrels. I've seen so many fat squirrels like teeter across the yard. I don't know if it's quite nut season yet, but I've seen a lot of like really fat squirrels. So I'll appreciate the squirrels. I'll appreciate the layout of our house. I'll appreciate our shower. Like, I don't know. There's so many good qualities to this home. And maybe I'm just like in a very nostalgic, kind of like pivotal emotional state. And that could possibly be true, right? Like, I'll own that. Okay. So, well, thank you so much for listening. I hope that there was something in here that you also connected with. Maybe it's, having pivotal moments in your life. Maybe it was the 4th of July. Maybe it was having that special place that you go every single holiday. Whatever it is, I'm with you. Okay. I'm here with you. We are in the struggle together. Be sure to send this to a friend or a family member, anyone that you'd like to spend or send a little golden love to. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, all the things. I seriously it means the world to me. And it helps the podcast more than you could ever know. We're also on YouTube, all the things. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.